हेलो एवरीबॉडी, गुड इवनिंग। कैसे हो सब लोग? वेलकम टू द क्लास एवरीवन। हाय एवरीवन। हेलो आर्यन, हाय भावना। गुड इवनिंग, हाउ आर यू ऑल? वेलकम टू टुडेज क्लास। हाउ इज योर preparation going? Yes, how are your exams? Are you preparing well for economics? बोलो बोलो। Are you preparing well? That's great. Chalo, we are going to start with the session. Today we are going to, in this class, we are going to discuss about aggregate demand, aggregate supply, income determination. मजा आने वाला है आज के सेशन में. चलो, let us start. Let us start with first what is aggregate demand and what is aggregate demand function. What is aggregate demand? अच्छा, before that, what is demand? Demand is the desire for a commodity backed up by the ability to pay and willingness to spend at a given price during a given period of time. Correct? That is demand. In demand, we studied two concepts, individual demand and market demand. Both were microeconomic concepts. Individual demand is demand by a single buyer of a single commodity. Market demand is demand by all the buyers of one commodity. Correct, everyone? So individual demand and market demand. In macroeconomics, we have something called as aggregate demand. Aggregate demand takes into consideration all the buyers of all the commodities. All the buyers include consumers, businessmen, and government. All the commodities include consumer as well as capital goods. Yes, everybody. चलो आगे बढ़े हैं. Now, what is the definition of aggregate demand? It is the total value of final goods and services. Hi Rishabh. Hello Nachatar Singh. Hey Rishabh, this is not recorded, bro. I'm live. Mic testing 1 2 3. Chalo. So total value of final goods and services which all the sectors, household, business, firm, government, rest of the world are planning to buy at a given level of income during a period of time, usually 1 year, is called as aggregate demand. Now students, the most important word over here is planning. Have the consumers actually purchased? No. They are planning to purchase. So this is a very, very important word. Aggregate demand is the planned demand. It is the planning of the sector, of all the sectors of economy, to purchase goods and services during a given period of time, usually 1 year. Then we have private consumption expenditure. This we have done in national income. We have investment expenditure and we have government expenditure. And we have the net foreign trade, which is export minus import, also called as net exports. So can I say aggregate demand is equal to C plus I plus G plus X minus M? We have done this somewhere. कहाँ देखा था ये? Which formula is this C plus I plus G plus X minus M? किसका formula है? बताओ जल्दी जल्दी. It is a formula of GDP at market price. Yes or no? GDP at market price is nothing else but C plus I plus G plus X minus M. Yes or no? चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. Now consumption is okay, what is consumption? Consumption is the action of using up a resource. Correct? So higher our consumption is dependent on income. Higher the income, higher the consumption. Lower the income, lower the consumption. Zero the income, zero the consumption. True or false? Income ज़्यादा, consumption ज़्यादा, income कम, consumption कम. अगर income zero तो consumption भी zero. True or false? No, never. Even if your income is zero, our consumption can never ever be zero. Let's take your example. Do you earn income? No. Do you consume? Yes. So कहाँ से आया ये consumption? Your consumption is independent of income. So how did you get money? Your parents gave you the money. Correct? This type of consumption which is independent of income, which is not dependent on income, is called as autonomous consumption. What is it called as? It is called as autonomous consumption. So autonomous consumption is that consumption which is independent of income, which is not dependent on income. Then there is one more type of consumption, induced consumption. Induced consumption is dependent on income. Higher the income, higher the consumption. Lower the income, lower the consumption. Yes or no? Everybody? Yes. So can I say our total consumption is equal to A, autonomous consumption, plus B, induced consumption, which is dependent on income. In economics, we denote income as Y. क्यों? Since we yield income. Since we yield income, therefore income in economics is denoted as Y. Correct? At any point of time, consumption can never, ever, ever be zero. Consumption is always more than zero. It is always positive. Correct? So, two types of consumption, similarly two types of investment. Autonomous investment and induced investment. Autonomous investment is independent of returns. It is done for welfare. Generally, government sector performs autonomous investment. Induced investment is dependent on returns, is dependent on profit, is dependent on income. So generally private sector will perform induced investment. Hi Pooja, hello Khushi, good evening, welcome to the class. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. So now when we invest money, it depends on two things, whether you want to invest or not. First, the cost of borrowing, that is your rate of interest, and marginal efficiency of capital. What is the rate of interest? Now when you are borrowing money from someone, you have to pay them interest. Correct? That is the cost at which you are getting money. That is a cost at which you have taken loan. So let us say the bank has given you loan. In return, the bank is charging you interest. This is the cost of borrowing. In return, when you will invest this money in the business, this money will earn returns for you. Correct? When you will make stock, you will sell the stock, you will earn money. That is marginal efficiency of capital, which means every additional capital, how much efficiency is it giving you? That is the expected rate of return, is nothing else but marginal efficiency of capital. So when your cost, now the cost of borrowing is nothing else but cost, and marginal efficiency is nothing else but revenue. For example, let us understand in terms of cost and revenue. If your cost is less, revenue is more, you will definitely take the loan and invest. If your cost is equal to revenue, you may or you may not take the loan. But if your cost is greater than the revenue, then you will definitely not take the loan. Why will you not take the loan? Because your cost is more, revenue is less. Because of which, what is happening? Yes, you are paying money from your pockets. So this loan is not earning anything extra for you. Therefore, you will not take the loan. Correct, everybody? So investment is dependent on what? Two things: cost of borrowings and marginal efficiency of capital. Then government expenditure. Government spends on what? Government spends on welfare of the people. It refers to the total expenditure incurred by the government. On what? Capital, consumer goods as well as capital goods. For what? For satisfying common needs of a economy. It measures the consumption as well as investment expenditure, correct, incurred by the government. Yes, everybody? Chalo, आगे बढ़ते हैं. Then we have net exports, also called as net foreign trade. What is net foreign trade? Exports minus imports. What is net foreign trade? Exports minus imports. Barabar, everyone? Chalo, let us move forward. Now, in our syllabus, we have aggregate demand in a two-sector model. So, which will be the two-sector model? Household and business. So, aggregate demand will be equal to private consumption expenditure of the household plus investment expenditure by the business. So generally the formula of aggregate demand is what? C plus I plus G plus X minus M. But in our syllabus we have two sector model. So what will be the formula for our aggregate demand? C plus I. What will be aggregate demand? C plus I. Correct everyone? Now let us understand this using a schedule. So सबसे पहले we have income. Even when the income is zero, consumption can never ever be zero. This is our autonomous consumption. Investment remains same at all levels of income. Here we are assuming that the investment is autonomous investment. As the income is rising, if you observe, consumption is also rising. Yes or no? Correct everyone? So when you add consumption and investment, you get aggregate demand. So can I say aggregate demand, if we try to draw the curve, first we will get the investment curve, which will be a horizontal straight line parallel to the x-axis. Correct? Then we have the consumption curve, which is C. When you add C plus I, you get the aggregate demand, which is equal to C plus I. So aggregate demand and consumption curve both have upward slope. Correct? So we say it is a positive slope. And investment curve is a straight line. So positive consumption at zero level of income is called as what? It is called as autonomous consumption. Correct? No, Ananya, for a two-sector economy, it is C plus I, as I have just told you all. Okay? Clear everyone? Now, I am giving you all 3 minutes to quickly draw the diagram. We are going to practice the diagrams also today. So, everyone start drawing the diagram quickly. Chalo, jaldi, jaldi. Start drawing the diagram. Hi Nitesh, good evening. Chalo everybody quickly. I have given you all 3 minutes. Please draw. Chalo, shall we move forward? Now let's talk about supply. What is supply? Supply is the desire to sell a commodity, backed up by the ability to sell and willingness to sell at a given price during a given period of time. We have two types of supply, individual and market. Both individual and market supply are microeconomic concept. In macroeconomics, supply has aggregate supply, where we have all the sellers of all the commodities. Correct? So what is the definition of aggregate supply? चलो देखते हैं. It is the total value of final goods and services which all the producers are willing to supply in an economy in a given period of time. Again, bachcho, it is willingness. It is the willingness. Have they actually sold yet? No, they will sell. So the total value of final goods and services is nothing else but what? National income. And we know that national income, whenever someone earns income, they will consume some part of income and they will save some part of income. So national income is equal to consumption plus savings. Therefore, aggregate supply will also be equal to consumption plus savings, yes or no? Correct? Aggregate supply will be equal to consumption plus savings. Now, on what does aggregate supply depend on? It depends on four things: natural resources, labor force, capital, and state of technology. Any economy, when they have more natural resources, aggregate supply tends to be more. And in an economy where the labor force is of a very good quantity and an excellent quality, aggregate supply will be more. Correct? When we have more capital resources, aggregate supply will be more. And when the state of technology is updated, aggregate supply will be more. If it is outdated, aggregate supply will be less. So as the income of an economy increases, so does the aggregate supply, so does the consumption and savings. So we get the aggregate supply curve as a upward sloping curve which starts from the origin and lies at 45-degree angle. Correct, everybody? So aggregate supply curve is a upward sloping curve which starts from the origin and slopes upward at a 45-degree angle. Barabar, everyone? Chalo, I am giving you all 2 minutes to draw the diagram of aggregate supply. Everybody quickly start drawing. Hi Tanishi, welcome to the class. I just saw your message. I hope your exams are going great. Please draw, everyone. Chalo, shall we move forward? Everyone done? Yes? Chalo, आगे बढ़ते हैं. Now, what is consumption? We know consumption is purposeful destruction of utility. It is the act of using up resources. And we also know that there are two types of consumption. Which is dependent on income, one which is independent of income. So, when uh, consumption is independent of income, we call it autonomous consumption, and when it is dependent on income, we call it induced consumption. So what is the formula for consumption? Consumption का formula is C is equal to A plus BY. C is equal to A plus BY. Correct? Now, from this we understand that whenever we earn income, some part goes in consumption, some part goes in savings. So income is equal to consumption plus savings. Now we are going to move forward and we are going to understand the consumption curve. How do you draw the consumption curve? Dekho. So first, even at zero level of income, consumption is not zero. This gives us a positive consumption, because of which we have negative savings, which are called as negative savings or dis-savings. Negative savings or dis-savings is theoretical concept. It does not mean that our savings are in negative. Correct? Then we reach a break-even point when income further rises, consumption also rises, and we reach a point where all our consumption needs are satisfied by income. So income is equal to consumption. Here savings are equal to zero. This point is called as the break-even point. Break-even point is the point where income is equal to consumption. Therefore, savings is equal to zero. After this point, as income increases, consumption also increases, and so does the savings. Why? Because now our rate of consumption increase is not rising as much as it was earlier, but we are saving more money. This gives rise to positive savings. So student savings is first negative, then it becomes zero, then it becomes positive. So negative savings is dis-savings, which is a result of borrowings. And we have zero savings where it at break-even point, and then we have positive savings when income is greater than consumption. Barabar? When we draw it graphically, we get a curve like this. So here we have the consumption curve. This is the consumption curve. This is our income curve, also called as the equity line. Which line? Equity line. On equity line, at each and every point, income is equal to consumption. Therefore, savings is equal to zero. So this is the consumption curve. Then we get the savings curve out of it. How do you draw the savings curve? So we draw exactly below the y-axis. We draw one more y-axis, and exactly parallel to the x-axis, we draw one more x-axis. Here at zero level of, here we will plot savings, and on x-axis we will have income. So when income is zero, savings is not zero, savings is negative. So savings curve will start below the origin. Then it will become upward sloping curve. Where does the savings start from? After point E. So we have taken a perpendicular on this y-axis. So before E1, there is this savings, negative savings. After E1, savings become positive. This is the break-even point. This is also the break-even point. Correct, everyone? Understood? How do we draw it? So first we will draw the consumption curve, then we will draw the savings curve using the consumption curve. Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Chalo, everybody start drawing quickly. Chalo, 3 minutes for this. Quickly. Chalo everybody, quickly. Done everyone? Should I wait for anyone who is still joining? Chalo, let's move forward. Now let's talk about propensity to consume. There are two types of people who love to consume, and then there are other type of people who love to save. So from their total income, a person who is a spendthrift will consume more and will save less. At the same time, when there is a miser will consume less and he will save less. So propensity mane possibility, tendency, probability of a person to spend. So propensity to save means what? What is a tendency to save? Propensity to consume means what? What is a propensity to consume? So spendthrift will probably spend more, save less. A miser will consume less and will save more. Correct everyone? Now let's talk about spendthrift. So let us say there are two types of propensities, average and marginal. Average talks about at a level of income. So at a level of income, how much is your consumption? So how do you calculate it? APC, average propensity to consume, is equal to C plus C upon Y, consumption upon income. So for a spendthrift, out of 100 rupees, he is spending 80 rupees, which means that out of his any income, his probability of consumption is 0.8. At the same time, when we talk about a miser, for a miser, the propensity to save will be less. APC will be 2. For a spendthrift, it will be 0.8. This shows that he will consume more. This shows that a miser will consume less. At the same time, we have marginal. Marginal means what? With every additional income, what is the additional change in consumption? So, income was 300, now income is 400. So what is the change in income? 100. Consumption was 280, now the consumption is 360. What is the change in consumption? 80. So change in consumption upon change in income will give you the answer as 0.8. This means every additional income that a person will get, his additional consumption will increase by 0.8. So for a spendthrift, MPC will be more. For a miser, MPC will be less. Correct? Then we have propensity to save. Same as consume. Average propensity to save and marginal propensity to save. Average में क्या आएगा देखो, it is a ratio of savings upon income. And marginal में we have change in savings upon change in income. So for a spendthrift, APS will be less because he is saving less. For a miser, APS will be more. Why? Because he is saving more. Correct, everyone? Understanding? Now, how do we calculate the marginal propensity to save? Same method, change in income and change in savings. The formula is change in savings upon change in income, which will give us the answer as 0.2 for a spendthrift, 0.8 for a miser. Correct, everybody? Now, whenever we see income is equal to consumption plus savings, so if income is considered to be 1, so can I say consumption plus savings will be equal to 1? This means that whenever we will add MPC and MPS, the answer will be 1. Similarly, whenever you will add APC and APS, the answer will always be 1. Clear, everyone? APC plus APS is equal to 1. MPC plus MPS is equal to 1. Is it clear till here, everyone? Everybody clear? Now, shall we move forward and give me a minute, everyone. Yes, thank you. Sorry, my laptop just turned down on its own. I don't know how, but anyway, I am back. Now, let's continue. Now, we are going to find out the equilibrium using aggregate demand, aggregate supply approach, and then we will use savings and investment approach. Yes. Now, both the approaches come with certain assumptions. So, what are the assumptions? One, we have two-sector model. We have autonomous investment. Price level is assumed to remain constant and equilibrium output is determined with reference to short run. What is short run? It is a time period where all the few factors of production are variable, rest all are fixed. So, in short run, there are two factors of production, the fixed factors and variable factors. Correct? Then, aggregate demand has two components, savings and investment. In consumption and investment. Consumption is of two types, autonomous and induced. Investment is also of two types, autonomous and induced. And aggregate demand curve looks something like this. Yes, everyone, correct, che? Then we have aggregate supply. Aggregate supply has two components, consumption and savings. When we draw the aggregate supply curve, it looks like this. Barabar. Now, what do? We equate aggregate demand and aggregate supply using the equilibrium approach. So, initially when we see at zero level of income, consumption is 4, investment is 4, which makes aggregate demand 8. Consumption is 4, savings is -4, which makes aggregate supply 0. So, in the first phase, if you observe, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply. Correct? So, what happens? People are planning to buy more, sellers are planning to supply less. So, the inventory that the sellers are willing to sell is falling short, is less than what is required in the economy. So, what will they do? They will increase the inventory. They will increase the inventory. They will increase the production. Income will increase. When the income increases, we reach a point where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. This is the point of effective demand. This is the equilibrium position. Every economy wants to operate at this level only. As our production further increases, income increases, aggregate demand, see what happens to aggregate demand? Consumption is 44, investment is 4. So aggregate demand is 48. Consumption is 44, savings is 6. So aggregate supply is 50. Now the supply in the economy is more than the demand, which means the goods are left unsold. If the goods are left unsold, aggregate demand has to be either increased or supply has to be reduced. So eventually, whether from phase 1 or from phase 3, you will reach phase 2. In the phase 2, aggregate demand is less than aggregate supply. So when you draw the curves, you get the curves like this. You get the equilibrium point over here at point E, where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. Before the equilibrium position, aggregate demand is more than aggregate supply, and after the equilibrium, aggregate demand is less than the aggregate supply. Correct? This is the effective demand or equilibrium position. Yes, everybody? Giving you all 2 minutes, everyone. Please draw the diagram quickly. चलो फटाफट ड्रॉ करो डायग्राम. क्विकली चलो फटाफट ड्रॉ करो. चलो everybody quickly draw. चलो done. Let's move forward. So what are the 3 phases? Aggregate demand is greater than aggregate supply. So planned spending is more than the planned output. Consumers and firms buy goods and services more than the firms are willing to produce. So planned inventory will fall short, will be below the desired level, and firms will have to increase the output and employment. Then we reach a position where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, and here this point is called as a point of effective demand. This is the equilibrium point where every economy wants to operate. When we further increase the employment, further increase the output, what will happen? The planned inventory will be more than the desired level of output, because of which firms will have to decrease the output and employment till they reach the point of aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply, which is effective demand. So whether you are in phase 1 or you are in phase 3, eventually you are going to come at phase 2 where aggregate demand is equal to aggregate supply. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं to savings and investment approach. Again the same set of assumptions, two sector model, autonomous investment, price level is constant, and equilibrium is in short run. Now when we talk about savings and investment approach, we have planned savings and planned investment. Planned savings is also called as ex ante savings. Planned investment is also called as ex ante investment. Please remember this. Planned is ex ante, planned savings is ex ante savings, planned investment is ex ante investment. So again 3 phases over here. When income is 0, consumption can never be 0. Investment, we assume it to be remaining constant, that is autonomous investment. Then savings is first negative, then 0, then positive. In the first phase, if you observe, savings is less than investment, which means what? That people are willing to invest more and save less. They are hoarding less money with themselves. Then comes a time where savings is equal to investment, where whatever people are saving is channelizing into investment. And savings is more than investment, which means people are hoarding more money with themselves. Every economy wants to operate at a level where savings is equal to investment. Correct everyone? So here the equilibrium level will be where savings is equal to investment. Correct everyone? So we draw the savings curve from the negative area. We get the investment curve. The point where savings curve is equal to investment, we call that equilibrium level, where S is equal to I. Before the equilibrium level, S is less than I. After the equilibrium level, S is greater than I. So where does the economy want to operate? It wants to operate at the equilibrium level. Correct? Chalo everybody again 3 minutes. Please draw the diagram quickly. फटाफट draw करो चलो. Let me know once done, students. Done. Okay, Sonali, let's wait for the others. Done. चलो आगे बढ़ते हैं. So what are the three phases? Savings is greater than investment. So planned savings are greater than the planned investment after the equilibrium point. Correct? Consumers, household are not consuming as much the firm expected and planned inventory would rise above the desired level. To clear the inventory, firms would want to reduce the investment till the time where savings is equal to investment. So second stage where savings is equal to investment, this shows the equilibrium point. This shows that whatever the people are planning to purchase is equal to whatever people are planning to sell. The investment is parallel to the x-axis and savings is going upward. Equilibrium point is where S intersects I. Yes, then we have savings is less than investment. Here the planned savings are less as compared to the investment. So household and consumers are consuming more and saving less, which means the planned inventory that we had planned is falling less. So what do? We increase the investment, we increase the inventory till the time savings will be equal to investment. Bolo, clear hai? Any doubts still here, students? Tell me. Done. Shall we move forward to the concept of multiplier? Now investment multiplier says what? It determines the impact of public or private investment. Every new investment in the economy will bring about changes in the income of the nation. It expresses the relationship between initial increment matlab rise in investment, and resultant increase in aggregate income. So every additional investment will bring in additional income. This shows how many times the increase in income will be there because of investment. So if I am introducing 100 rupees as investment in the economy, it will not result to 100 rupees rise in the income of people. It depends on how much investment is having an impact in the economy. This depends on consumption and savings of the people. So we try to find out, if I am investing 100 rupees in the economy, how many times is the income rising? So K, that is the multiplier, is equal to the change in income upon the change in investment. Now let's have a look. Here if you observe, the initial investment was 50,000, initial income was 50,000 when the investment was 10,000. Now what is happening? Investment is rising to 20,000, because of which income is rising to 80,000. So what is the change in investment? Change in investment is 10,000, 20,000 minus 10,000, and change in income is 30,000, 50,000 minus 80, or 80 minus 50. So what do we get? 30,000 upon 10,000, which is equal to 3. Which means if I am introducing, let us say 500 rupees in the economy, income will increase by how many times? 3 times, by 1500 rupees. Correct? So how many times will the investment be multiplied to create how much income? Is nothing else but multiplier. Now this multiplier is dependent on consumption and savings. Now naturally, if you consume more, which means you are using up more money, which means the money that will float around in the economy will flow more number of times, which means if consumption is more, the value of multiplier will be more. Ananya, you are mixing two things, Ananya. That what you are saying is different, what I am teaching is different, okay? And when the consumption is less, the value of multiplier will also be less. Why does the government urge us to consume more? Because the more we will consume, the more multiplier effect we'll be able to bring about. So higher the MPC, higher will be the value of multiplier. Lower the MPC, lower will be the value of multiplier. Correct? So what is the formula? K is equal to 1 upon 1 minus MPC. This is the second formula of multiplier. Yes or no? Yes, everyone? This is a formula. Similarly, when we find out the relationship between multiplier and MPS. So if people will save more, what will happen? Value of multiplier will be less ke more. If people will save more, value of multiplier will be less. Very good. Why? Because the number of times the money is flowing in the economy will reduce. So higher the MPS, lower the value of multiplier. Lower the MPS, higher will be the value of multiplier. Yes or no? There is no example as such. You can just take a random example. When MPC is 0.7, MPS is 3. You can find out the value of multiplier. Correct? So the formula using MPS is K is equal to 1 upon MPS. So can I set the relationship as, can I write the relationship as higher the value of MPC, higher will be the value of multiplier. Lower the value of MPC, lower will be the value of multiplier. And the formula is 1 upon 1 minus MPC. Then we have MPS, higher the MPS, lower the value of multiplier. Lower the MPS, higher the value of multiplier. The formula is K is equal to 1 upon MPS. Barabar? Yes, everyone? Easy peasy lemon squeezy. Chalo, everyone please take down this slide. Ye likh lo fatafat. And write one more. So this is formula number 1, formula number 2 and formula number 3. I am writing one more formula. K is equal to change in income upon change in investment. Chalo, please write this down. Chalo everyone, quickly. Okay, Sonali, let's wait for the others. Done? So what are the 3 formulas? K is equal to change in income upon change in investment. K is equal to 1 upon 1 minus MPC. And K is equal to 1 upon MPS. I hope you have written the relationship also. Now let's move forward and talk about the minimum and maximum value of multiplier. When will the multiplier have maximum value? When people are spending the entire sum of additional income that they are getting. Matlab, earlier what we did, with every additional income, some part was consumed, some part was saved. Let us say people are getting 100 rupees as income, additional income. Entire 100 rupees is consumed, nothing is saved. So can I say in this case the value of MPC will be equal to 1. MPC will be equal to 1 when we are spending our entire income. Yes or no? When the value of MPC is 1, so we will get 1 upon 1 minus 1, which is equal to 1 upon 0. So in this case, the value of multiplier will be infinite. Yes or no? The value of multiplier will be infinite. Correct, everyone? Are you understanding? Yes. Then, what will the minimum value of multiplier be? Minimum value of multiplier will be when you are not spending anything. You are saving everything. Matlab MPC will be 0. MPS will be 1. So when you substitute here, you get the answer as 1. So what will be the minimum value of multiplier? The minimum value of multiplier will always be equal to 1. Understood everyone? Yes or no? Everybody clear? Any doubts still here? Please ask. No doubts? Superb. Everyone, I hope your preparations are going really well. That's all for the day, everybody. That's all for the class, actually. After this, we are going to start with excess demand, deficient demand at 8:45. So everyone, please do attend the class. Do not miss it. If you have any doubts, you can bring your doubts in the next class. I'll be able to help you and we will solve it. Okay? That's all for the day. Thank you very much, everyone. See you all at 8:45. Do not forget to come for the class. Ananya, the leaderboard will be empty, no? Because we have not taken any quizzes. Chalo. Bye, everybody. See you all. Bye-bye.